Hi, everybody. Jason Klom with the Comedy on Vinyl podcast. Just a little warning, I'm slightly inebriated for this one, too. I'm doing a comedy album a day for all of 2017. I am hashtagging it comedy album a day. I'm bumping into the tripod when I do it. And this time I am picking... yesterday we did Red Fox's first album, 1956. We're going ahead just 1 year to an album that is... not really found heavily on anybody's resume, and yet actually has a bit of an impact. By the way, you should go to youtube.com/comedy on vinyl if you're finding this on Instagram, because the full thing will be up there, because I probably won't be able to shut up for a few minutes. This album is 1957's Songs of Couch and Consultation by Katie Lee. Now, Katie Lee is a singer. It specifically says they're sung by Katie Lee, written and produced by Bud Freeman. Now, I looked it up. I'm not a music expert, but I do know that Bud Freeman is a jazz guy. I'm not so sure it's the same Bud Freeman. Discogs.com seems to say it's not. It's a somebody Freeman with totally different first name. So somebody out there will correct me. And for one of the few times in my life, I'm happy to accept a correction to one of these things, because it actually does matter. I'd actually like to know, because it's impossible to find out online, and it's not clearing it up. At the end of the day, I'm going to forget it when you give me the answer, but it doesn't matter. This is a very cool relic of the 50s, and I mean that in a kind way. A relic sounds like I'm saying it should be dismissed, but it shouldn't be. It's a lot of fun. This is actually one of the ones when I spoke to my buddy Taylor Jessen, Fireside Theater's archivist. This is one of the ones I just said, go through all my albums, pick them out, pick out the ones you think I should talk about. And this is one of those, and tonight a friend picked this for me and told me I should listen to it. And I'm glad she did. It's, first of all, let's just go, I haven't talked too much about the art, the album art on these. There's no sleeve or anything, so I don't know if there's ever a custom fun sleeve or anything. It's probably just a, hey, look at all the other albums on such and such records. I'm pretty sure it says here, Commentary Records here in Los Angeles, California, Hollywood. 6381 Hollywood Boulevard. You guys should go there, tell me what's there, and I guess I could do it myself, but I'm not going to. The art is really beautiful. This is a little, there's no ring wear, but there's a lot of, like you can see on mine, there's a lot of just garbage. I tend to shop in the 25-cent section sometimes, usually at Atomic Records here in Burbank, because I just want to find stuff. And if I'm not in the mood to buy the super high quality version, I'm okay to get the 25-cent version first, see if I like it, and then go from there. And this is actually in okay shape, but regardless, the colors are really beautiful. She's just got, like, there's just, I don't know, it's just a very funny cover. Not the only cover you can find. From what I can tell, this is the first cover, but there are at least 3 different versions of Lady Guitar, Couch, and Sigmund Freud looking dude with glasses. Well, I say Sigmund Freud. He looks like a beatnik version of Sigmund Freud. And that's actually a good segue into what this album is, finally, 3 minutes into the damn thing. It's a music album. It's all music. The songs are satirical. I read somewhere parody, but there's no specific parody to the best of my knowledge. These are all satirical. They're fun, different styles. One of them is ragtime. Katie Lee was originally like, Burl Ives called her the great cowboy singer. She was a country singer, folk singer. She still does that, actually. At 97, she's still doing all kinds of amazing, crazy stuff. But this album is all, as you can tell, it's about psychology. And I just hit myself with the album. I'm so excited. Because in 1957, psychology, the psychology people were more aware of was pop psychology. Pop psychology really meant something at the time. Sigmund Freud's teachings were, only 40, 50, maybe 60 years old at this point. So they're still pretty fresh, and I mean, consider that's now 50, 60 years ago. They're still fairly fresh in our minds, and the idea of applying a label to somebody or trying to explain things or etc. It became very fun to make fun of that by saying, well, if you explain something, aren't you kind of explaining it away? That's become, by parodying psychoanalysis in general, you're having fun with it as a fad, which it was, and it has now become more of a way of life for some people, and it's very helpful. But I don't find it dismissive. I find it just a reaction to, holy crap, this is just a sudden new thing in culture that just seems so funny, because suddenly everybody's got a term for everything. And that was kind of mind-blowing. And eventually that actually became the same reaction that people had to political correctness, etc. And it's, again, it's a very helpful thing that people reacted to in a way because it was just new and something they didn't understand, and we're just having fun with, making fun of, sure, but like not necessarily crapping on. And eventually, it's interesting how these things snowball, because now, like, I remember reading an old Mad magazine that had jokes about political correctness that were there, and they were satire and they were goofy enough, but now it's exploded. You're being censored suddenly if you're asked to be politically correct. It's similar. It's a similar situation here, and I'm not sure how. That's not true. It's a similar situation here in that it was something that was again a piece of culture that people didn't entirely understand, and became turned into a piece of pop culture in order to explain it or understand it, or make fun of it because of its prevalence. And eventually it snowballs, becomes part of culture, and at this point, if you make fun of psychoanalysis, it's very. You feel like you're in the 50s. Like, I don't know. People still do it, I guess. We got to analyze this and analyze that. Everybody's two favorite films of all time. Let's get back to the damn album. It's just, there's so much to dig, to uncover when you're talking about this, to sort of explain why this was unique. And just give you some titles. Well, I'll just give you all the titles. We got Shrinker Man, The Will to Fail, The Guilty Rag, Stay as Sick as You Are, Hush Little Sibling, Real Sick Sounds, Repressed Hostility Blues, I Can't Get Adjusted to the You Who Got Adjusted to Me, Schizophrenic Moon, Properly Loved, Gunslinger, A Ballad for Adult Westerns, It Must Be Something Psychological. These are things that I feel like in pieces you've probably gotten over the years. At no point would you have necessarily seen somebody do a theme album, other than this, of psychoanalysis related songs. And it is unique. It's actually a lot of fun. She's got an amazing voice. They're very well written songs. And even if you miss one or two while you're maybe researching the life of Katie Lee, you still enjoy it thoroughly. So there might be one or two songs that I didn't entirely process. But that said, this is fun and 100% re-listenable. I would re-listen to it. It's not something I can say of every vinyl comedy album I get to listen to, because sometimes it's just a relic for the sake of it. This is fun, and it's good. It's good stuff. And actually, if you look on the back, if you get a copy of this on vinyl, which I recommend, and like I said, I think I got this for 25 cents. There are some fun notes on the back as to the supposed origin of this, as written by, one assumes, Bud Freeman. It's not signed Bud Freeman, and again, probably not the Bud Freeman you assume. This is a fun album, so thank you, Taylor, for suggesting it. Thank you to my other friend for confirming that this should be the one that I listened to today. And also, Katie Lee, you're still around. This is an absolute open invite to come on the Comedy on Vinyl podcast, which is a podcast, which is not a word, a podcast everybody should listen to, subscribe to, rate highly if you enjoy it, and I hope you do. Click subscribe wherever that happens, because I am so unused to where that goes. Click subscribe here on YouTube, because I'm going to do this the whole year, all of 2017. 365 of these albums, which won't get me through my whole collection, but it'll get me close. Maybe I'll double up here and there. Maybe the podcast itself will actually cover the remainder. That's about it. Again, hashtag it Comedy Album a Day. I'm Jason Klom. Please listen to the Comedy on Vinyl podcast. Look into the other stuff on stolendress.com. Thanks so much, and as always, have a good thing.